Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Policy and Race here on Depictions Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. So, ending details of what was discovered and how the Secret Service actually failed. And maybe it was best that Kimberly Cheadle did step down and was replaced by Ronald Rowe. So, as it turns out that the Secret Service failed to deploy drones that may have been able to spot the shooter earlier. And then other things went wrong with law enforcement and other failures that could have prevented the shooter from getting a shot off at Donald Trump. There's a lot of things that really went wrong, and Mr. Rowe admitted to all those things that had happened. The big question, though, is how did crooks get in with a rangefinder, a rifle, and everything, get that close to a Republican Party rally? And that's a question that the Secret Service does have to answer for. But at the same time, I still have the question, could it be possible that the Republican Party or Donald Trump's people invited Mr. Crooks to the party to begin with? So, something to think about as we move forward. And so, moving forward, the Israelis are claiming some victory as they did target and kill a Hamas leader, and other details, as we want to focus for a second on the prisoner swap between the United States and Russia. We have a recorded statement from President Joe Biden about that, and there may be some other details about that prisoner swap reported from the BBC. So, 16 people released from Russia jails as part of a prisoner swap tasted freedom. They were moving scenes at air base in U.S. state of Maryland. Wall Street Journal reported one of the freed Americans lifted in a mother's embrace after being greeted on the tarmac as U.S. President Joe Biden swapped. The swap involved 24 prisoners from the U.S., Germany, Poland, and Slovenia, Norway, Russia, and Belarus. deal origins can be traced in 2020, and it was explained from the first hints during the release of a U.S. basketball player, Brittany Griner, though it's nearly unraveling over the death of a Russian dissident, Alexei Navalny. As to the conclusion when U.S. officials held their breath and crossed their fingers until planes touched down. So, Donald Trump made some statements saying that the efforts are laughable and that the negotiators themselves were basically a joke. As he posted that on his Truth Network. And he also was also touting how it would have never happened under his watch to begin with, claiming more Crooked Joe theories. The thing of it is should such a thing have ever become a political ploy in order for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump to attempt to gain votes, win over the American public, should that be allowed, or should we be just simply grateful that someone was able to get the job done and get people home? So, more thoughts. There are some other thoughts from Vladimir Putin, and Putin claiming a win in the prisoner swap, that he got exactly what he wanted, and he showed how he does have power over the Western government. From the returning Russians, there was a red carpet reception, a guard of honor, there were bouquets of flowers, and some hugs from President Putin, and as he embraced the FSB hitmen who had been serving a life sentence in Germany for assassinating Georgia-born Chechen dissident. Russia also released more prisoners than it received. Why is Putin celebrating this as a victory? And Russia got what they wanted. They got agents back, including a man number one on the list. The German authorities had initially been unwilling to release a convicted assassin who, according to German court, had acted on behalf of the Russian authorities. The message the Kremlin wants to send to its agents and spies is, if we send you on a mission abroad and things go wrong, we'll find a way to get you home. So Mr. Putin is claiming a victory. Which also in today's show, we're going to hear from the Alberta government about how they are working with Indigenous leaders in the province of Alberta, sharing resources and the spoils of those resources in financial gain. So, why don't we move forward and let's hear what Mr. Biden has to say about the prisoner swap as it was about to happen.
You got everybody? Well, good afternoon. And this is a very good afternoon. A very good afternoon. Today we're bringing home Paul, Evan, Alsu, Vladimir. 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder. All 4 have been imprisoned unjustly in Russia Paul for nearly 6 years, Vladimir since 2022, Evan since March of 2023, and Alsu since October of 2023. Russian authorities arrested them, convicted them in show trials, and sentenced them to long prison terms with absolutely no legitimate reason whatsoever, none. Paul, a former Marine, was in Russia for a wedding. Evan, a journalist with a Russian in Russia, was in Russia, signed by the Wall Street Journal. Alsu, also a journalist, was in Russia to see family. All three falsely accused of being spies. And Vladimir, who was a Russian citizen by birth and holds an American green card, is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and was a pallbearer at my friend John McCain's funeral with me. He spoke out against Putin's regime, and for that he was convicted of treason. And now, their brutal ordeal is over, and they're free. Moments ago, the families and I were able to speak to them on the telephone from the Oval Office. They're out of Russia. Earlier today, they were flown to Turkey, and soon they'll be wheels up on their way home to see their families. This is an incredible relief for all the family members gathered here. It's a relief to the friends and colleagues all across the country who've been praying for this day for a long time. The deal that made this possible was a feat of diplomacy and friendship. Friendship. Multiple countries helped get this done. They joined in difficult, complex negotiations at my request, and I personally thank them all again. And I've thanked them personally, and I'll thank them again. All told, Russia has released 16 prisoners. 8 Russians who are being held in the West will be sent home as well. These 16 prisoners from Russia that Russia has released include 4 Americans, 5 Germans, 7 Russian citizens who are political prisoners in their own country. One of those Russians runs a human rights organization, Memorial, which won a Nobel Prize in 2022. Putin threw him in prison for voicing opposition to the war in Ukraine. 4 others work with Alexei Navalny, a political opposition leader who died in Russia prison this year. Now they can live safely abroad and continue their work of advocating for democracy if they so choose. This deal would not have been made possible without our allies. Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Norway, and Turkey, they all stepped up, and they stood with us. They stood with us. And they made bold and brave decisions, released prisoners being held in their countries who are justifiably being held, and provided logistical support to get the Americans home. So for anyone who questions whether allies matter, they do. They matter. And today is a powerful example of why it's vital to have friends in this world. Friends you can trust, work with, and depend upon, especially on matters of great consequence and sensitivity like this. Our alliances make our people safer, and we began to see that again today. Let me say this. It says a lot about the United States that we work relentlessly to free Americans who are unjustly held around the world. It also says a lot about us that this deal includes the release of Russian political prisoners. They stood up for democracy and human rights. Their own leaders threw them in prison. The United States helped secure their release as well. That's who we are in the United States. We stand for freedom, for liberty, for justice, not only for our own people, but for others as well. And that's why all Americans can take pride in what we've achieved today. I want to thank everyone in my administration who helped make this happen. Our work did not start just on day one. It started before day one. During the transition, I instructed our national security team to dig into all the cases of hostages being wrongfully detained, which were inherently, well, we inherited them from the prior administration. I wanted to make sure we hit the ground running, and we did. As of today, my administration has brought home over 70 Americans who were wrongfully detained and held hostage abroad, many since before I took office. Additionally, I issued an executive order in 2022 authorizing penalties like sanctions and travel bans on those who hold Americans against their will. And my State Department has introduced new warnings for Americans about the risk of being wrongfully detained by a foreign government. Deals like this one come with tough calls, and there are never any guarantees. But there's nothing that matters more to me than protecting Americans at home and abroad. And so we'll continue to work for the release of all wrongfully detained Americans around the world. Let me end where I began, with Paul, Evan, and also Vladimir and their families. They never gave up hope. We can't imagine what they've been through, all of you. Matter of fact, this lady right here, I think, was living in the Oval Office with us for a while. All kidding aside, can't imagine their joy right now. They're home. Tomorrow's a big day. The 13th birthday of Miriam. Miriam, where are you? Come here. You all know we have a tradition in the Biden family. We sing happy birthday on any birthday. You ready? All of you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Miriam. Happy birthday to you. Remember, no serious guys till you're 30. God love you. She's all Sue's daughter. Now she gets to celebrate with her mom. That's what this is all about. Families. Able to be together again, like they should have been all along. So I want to thank you again to everyone who did their part. In just a few hours, we'll welcome home our fellow Americans. We're looking forward to that. God willing, we're going to be out at Andrews and get that done. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And this is a good day.
What did you say to them on the phone, sir? What did you say when they answered the phone on the other side?
I said, welcome almost home.
How do you keep countries, these so-called abductor states, from simply taking more Americans in order to get more of their prisoners home? How do you end these perverse incentives, sir?
Well, we're advising people not to go certain places. Tell them what's at risk, what's at stake.
Mr. President, where are these negotiations, and can you speak to the complexity of working with 6 countries to secure these?
Well, look, I'm not going to take the time now, but I'll do this later in the week. I particularly own a great sense of gratitude to the Chancellor. The demands they were making of me required me to get some significant concessions from Germany, which they originally concluded they could not do because of the person in question. But everybody stepped up. Poland stepped up. Slovenia stepped up. Turkey stepped up. And it matters to have relationships. It really does. These things matter. Pardon me?
Could this improve relations with Russia? Is there any avenue for that after this prisoner exchange deal?
As my sister might say, your lips to God's ears, man.
Did you ever speak to Vladimir Putin about this? Or would you be willing to speak with Putin now directly?
I don't need to speak with Putin.
Anyway. How did you weigh that decision of letting somebody out who sounds like got away with murder tonight?
I got home innocent people. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Ella, what did you say to your son?
As a father, are you speaking with Erdogan or any of the leaders about this?
Say that again?
Are you speaking with President Erdogan or other leaders about this?
Yes, I've spoken to all the leaders about this.
What do you say? How do you
And by the way, as a father, look.
Okay, so we have a recording from July 30th as the Alberta Premier Danielle Smith holds a news conference in Calgary to highlight a new partnership agreement between TC Energy Corporation and Indigenous communities. Earlier in the day, Calgary-based energy company announced it would sign a $1 billion deal backed by the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation that is up to 72 Indigenous communities to purchase the minority stake in Nova Gas Transmission System at the Foothills pipeline assessed. Premier Smith will be joined by the Indigenous Relations Minister, Rick Wilson, Energy Minister Brian Jean, as well as Roy Fox, Blackfoot name. He's a Blackfoot chief of Kainai-Blood tribe, and Thom, councillor of the Kikino Metis settlement. Chana, Martineau, the CEO of the AIOC, and François Poirier, president of TC Energy. So, why don't we listen to how some of that actually played out at that news conference.
So thank you everyone online and in person for joining us here at the TC Energy Tower. What a great place. On Treaty 7 territory. These lands have been home to First Nations people for countless generations, and we also recognize the Métis people who also share a deep connection with these lands. I'd like to thank Chief Fox for getting us started with a powerful blessing before the live stream began. And thank you for your wisdom, Chief. I want to just recognize some of our partners that are here as well. Of course, Danielle Smith, Premier, thank you so much. Brian Jean, Minister of Energy and Minerals. Chief Roy Fox, Makiinima, with the Blood Tribe. Thom, good friend of mine, councillor from Kikino Metis settlement. Chana Martineau, Chief Executive Officer of Alberta for the Indigenous Opportunities Corporation. I've been giving her a bad time, but she got it done, so good job. And François Poirier, President and Chief Executive Officer of TC Energy. And now I'd like to invite Premier Smith up to the podium to get us started with some very exciting news.
Well, thank you, Minister Wilson, for that kind introduction. And thank you to Makiinima, Chief Roy Fox, for the opening blessing and for starting us off in a good way. And thanks as well to TC Energy for hosting us as we take an historic step forward together. For far too long, Indigenous peoples were kept to the outsides of society and in Alberta's prosperity. Despite a desire to benefit from the resources located on their traditional lands, Indigenous communities have sometimes been shut out from participating in our resource economy, either by politicians or advocacy groups who claim to speak on their behalf or pretended to have their best interests at heart. Addressing these injustices is essential to reconciliation, but any solutions must be built on more than just words and wishes. They must include Indigenous peoples in the economy and at the ownership table, sitting as partners in projects and assets that create wealth and opportunity for generations to come. To enable that, our government has adopted a practical approach by creating the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, the first organization of its kind in Canada to provide loan guarantees for Indigenous communities to purchase equity in high-value money-making projects, including resource projects. The AIOC is designed to be a game changer for economic reconciliation. It's about ensuring Indigenous peoples are active at every level of the economy as owners, workers, and partners. And it's working. In its first 4 years, the AIOC has provided more than 600 in loan guarantees to 42 Indigenous communities. And we recently tripled the AIOC's loan guarantee capacity to $3 billion so that even more opportunities can be pursued. And we did so because even though vocal interests claim to be speaking for all Indigenous communities, we know from our many ongoing efforts that many communities support the industry and want to be part of its future. They want to partner with it. They view it as a path to jobs for their children, generational prosperity for their communities. The AIOC and its loan guarantees help make that partnership with the energy industry happen. It is a successful Alberta-made solution that other provinces and the federal government are beginning to emulate. And I'm happy to confirm that we're putting this extra capacity to good use. Thanks to a $1 billion loan backstop, he is driving the single largest Indigenous equity transaction ever undertaken in Canada. Pending the work in the upcoming weeks, it will involve multiple Indigenous communities purchasing an equity stake in the critical NGTL system and Foothills pipeline assets from TC Energy. We're talking about the heartbeat of Alberta's natural gas industry, receiving and moving 75% of all natural gas from our world-class Western Canada sedimentary basin. It's a network of 25,000 kilometers of pipe that delivers gas to commercial, residential, and industrial consumers all over the province, not to mention its role in supplying gas to the Canadian Mainline, which delivers fuel to millions of Canadians across the country. Owning part of this premier energy asset will create significant new revenue streams for every single community that signs on, and we expect a lot of them to do so. An unprecedented number of Indigenous communities from Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia have already expressed their interest in being a part of this partnership. This is a clear demonstration that many Indigenous people support our energy industry and want to be part of it. Once it's finalized, it will bring each of these communities tremendous benefits that will last for generations. They will enjoy financial returns that they can use to deliver to all of their members. They will also become part owners of the infrastructure that is so critical to the continent's energy security. After a long history of exclusion, they're moving straight to the heart of Alberta's economy. And I want to thank all of the partners involved in this project for working tirelessly to hammer out the details and for delivering incredibly positive results. This is reconciliation, and I'm proud that Alberta is leading the way. I hope that the rest of Canada follows suit, open up the resource industry to Indigenous peoples. We all depend on it, and we should all share in its jobs growth and the returns it provides. Now I'd like to hand things back over to Minister Rick Wilson.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you so much for your ongoing support. It's just, you're my hero. I'm just thrilled. The AIOC continues to change the game when it comes to economic reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. This historic announcement wouldn't be possible without the AIOC. So who better to tell us more than the CEO of the AIOC, Chana Martineau.
Thank you, Minister Wilson, and thank you, Premier Smith, Minister Jean, François, for hosting us today. Tansi, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I want to thank Chief Roy Fox for the blessing earlier. Your words and your presence inspire us. And before we delve into today's momentous announcement, I want to take a moment to extend my deepest condolences to the residents of Jasper and the surrounding areas. The recent wildfire has wrought profound loss of property, landscape, and wildlife. We grieve with you. Our hearts go out also to the Chippewa Prairie First Nation and Little Red River Cree Nation, who faced the harrowing experience of evacuation this past Friday due to the wildfires in northern Alberta. Our prayers are with all of those impacted by these tragic events. So let's turn now to talk about this fantastic news that we are here to share. Finally, this has really been a tremendous amount of work in the making. So today we stand at an inflection point, one that redefines the landscape of economic reconciliation and sets a precedent on the global stage. We are here to celebrate a landmark achievement, one that signifies a new chapter in our shared journey towards Indigenous economic equity and prosperity. The Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation is thrilled to announce a $1 billion loan guarantee to support what will be the largest equity partnership in history. This partnership, involving up to 72 First Nations and Métis groups from Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan, is the first cross-jurisdictional partnership of its kind and the largest Indigenous loan guarantee ever issued in Canada. This deal is more than a mere financial transaction. It is a pivotal step towards ensuring that Indigenous communities are at the forefront of our economic landscape and with a true seat at the table. Since AIOC's inception in 2019, our model has consistently demonstrated that loan guarantees and Indigenous equity partnerships are powerful catalysts for economic reconciliation. Our program places Indigenous communities at the heart of success, driving empowerment and providing the resources to invest in land, facilities, programs, and further economic ventures. Each engagement fundamentally transforms the participants, equipping them with knowledge, financial resources, and greater acumen. Together, we are stronger. A heartfelt thank you to Premier Smith, Minister Wilson, Minister Jean, and the entire government of Alberta for your tremendous support of our program. Your commitment has been invaluable. I want to thank you for your visionary leadership in establishing AIOC, along with that unwavering commitment to Indigenous economic reconciliation. Your steadfast support has been crucial in achieving this milestone and many more, and I can't thank you enough. Let's give them all a big hand of applause. This monumental step, the one we are announcing today, is a testament to the remarkable strength and vision of the Indigenous Consortium. Your leadership and tenacity have made this unprecedented opportunity possible, and it is a privilege to support your nations and your communities as you take this historic leap forward. I'm so happy to see so many members of the Consortium Committee here today. I see Tyler Latondra in the back, Chief Roy Fox, and Councillor Lee Thom. I think GM Rob Thomas and Economic Development Advisor Kyle Martin are in the crowd as well. They're all here representing the Consortium Committee. I want to thank each and every one of the Consortium Committee members for your dedication and tireless commitment, your vision for a better future. Each one of you has been critical to bringing this transaction forward to get us to this point. A special thank you to Chief Isaac Twin of the Sawridge First Nation for chairing the Consortium Committee. I want to extend our sincere thanks and congratulations to François Poirier and the entire team at TC Energy for your critical role in advancing this meaningful partnership. Your leadership is instrumental in shaping a brighter future where Indigenous communities lead and thrive in the natural resource sector and the broader Canadian economy. Thank you for hosting today's historic announcement as well. The benefits from these partnerships extend far beyond the First Nations and Métis communities. Corporate partners like TC Energy and others gain a profound understanding of Indigenous values, wisdom. It fosters deeper and more meaningful relationships with their neighboring communities. The economic impacts ripple outward. Corporations and communities are stronger for these partnerships, driving positive momentum for all. And this is the true embodiment of reconciliation, as we like to call it in Alberta. Through the AIOC, Alberta is leading the way in Canada, and we are showing the entire world a better way. We are setting the benchmark globally by reshaping the paradigm of Indigenous economic participation, proving that once was thought to be impossible can be a reality. The world is watching and learning from our experience, and let's keep showing them a better, more inclusive path forward. The historic significance of this transaction cannot be overstated. We are propelling our country toward a future of unprecedented growth, innovation, and shared success. So let us celebrate this achievement as a profound milestone for all of us. I believe that we will look back at these years as a powerful time of positive change for our country. So congratulations to the Indigenous Consortium, TC Energy, and the Government of Alberta. A heartfelt thank you to everyone who has been a part of this extraordinary journey. We're not quite done yet, but we are almost there. Together, we are forging a legacy of prosperity and collaboration for generations to come. Hi.
Thank you, Chana. I know I put a lot of pressure on you, but if it was easy, anybody could do it. So thank you so much. Now I'd like to call up Chief Fox, my good friend Makiinima.
Kit khonak sumatsim khwa nikso kwa o kiksoka kstakia khmanste mansta khtukh pyama khunst khutsitapi opisochtika moksi poya pi kwakso kemostinau no sikskaksh. We extend our gratitude to François Poirier of TC Energy and your company, as well as to Premier Smith, Government of Alberta, and of course AIOC. we thank you for giving us the opportunity to directly participate in the energy sector in Western Canada. Sometimes Indigenous governments can reach agreement with the business sector, with the energy sector, as well as other governments, such as provincial governments. It doesn't happen all the time. In this case, this is a perfect example, a tangible example of what can happen and provincial government agrees with Indigenous governments, whether they are First Nations or Metis, as well as with industry, to really begin to take advantage of good business opportunities. The conventional oil and gas sector is very much alive in Canada. It will remain with us for a long time. We have engaged with companies before, whether it's with Tamarack or other companies, in trying to become active participants on the business side of the development of our natural resources. So this is a great example. We've only done that a few times. Once was in the agricultural sector. So I am very grateful as well to the members of the negotiating team. I think some of you are here, chiefs, representatives from the Métis settlements, and those of our experts that are with us. Thank you for the good work that you have done with the negotiators of TC Energy, with the negotiators of AIOC, and you've come up with a truly tangible opportunity for all of us to participate in the provincial government of Alberta, the TC Energy of Canada, and of course the Indigenous leadership of Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan. So I know that there is still more work to be done. Hopefully we will be able to wrap things up within a month, I think. And we can then truly begin to say that we are working with other governments. We are working with an important industry that will remain strong, at least in Western Canada, and that we are working together for the benefit of those that we represent. So thank you to everyone for the good work. Kun.
Thank you so much, Chief Fox. Now I'd like to invite Councillor Thom up to provide a few words.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Well, first of all, what I'm going to do is decide what voice I'm going to use, whether it's my outside voice or my inside voice. And I'm going to put myself on a timer because I've been known to talk too much. So here we go. Not that my friend did, but I do, and I admit it. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. What I'd like to do is to acknowledge that we're here as guests on the Treaty 7 territory, the land of my good friend, Mr. Makiinima, and the homeland of the Métis people of Alberta. My name is Thom, and I'm from the Kikino Métis settlement. And I'm proud to be here today on behalf of the 8 land-based Métis settlements of Alberta, and the two credible assertions of Alberta in of Fort McKay and Lake St. Anne Métis. Sorry, breathe. First of all, what I want to say, it's been a long road here, and I'm so proud to be here today, and I'm just saying wow as I look at the landscape of this beautiful land, and I look at the faces in this crowd, and I start to get comfortable in my speaking, and the passion's going to spill out in 3 ways. And I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I'm proud to be here as a Métis man on behalf of the people of the Métis settlements of Alberta. And I really appreciate the time to speak here. And I'll go right into my speech. I'm honored and humbled to be here today in front of you all to recognize and celebrate the path forward to true economic reconciliation. As we walk as Western Canadians together in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, hand in hand on a true path to economic reconciliation. United, we have come to a place where we created a partnership that not only prioritizes our needs in our Indigenous communities, but builds long-lasting investments into our communities that will extend generations far beyond mine and yours. Long-lasting generations to come. I'm proud to be here on this Treaty 7 territory as a guest, as one nation, a First Nation, Métis provincial governments, and the energy sector in TC. This monumental partnership empowers us as Indigenous people to invest into our communities and secure commitment that our voices are shared as we shape this Western Canadian resource landscape. It's a truly proud day for me, and I'll go into a few thank yous. And if I forget you, please, I apologize. We'll talk about it after. So I want to thank, first of all, the Indigenous Consortium. The Indigenous Consortium that sat for 5 months and worked countless hours. I'll get past the names and recognize Treaty 6, Treaty 7, Treaty 8, the 8 Métis settlements Alberta, and the 2 credible assertion communities. My timer. Sorry, you can edit that out. I just need 30 seconds. I also want to thank, of course, Madam Premier. We've met before a few times. I seem to be following you around, and I always end up beside you somewhere. And doing a jig. I got it on video, by the way. You can edit that out too. But AIOC Chana, some of the work you've done in your group, and of course BLG. I don't know if they're here today, but without good lawyers and good TD advisors, things like this aren't possible. And of course the TC Energy team, IR, corporate, everybody in this room who's proud today in this beautiful landscape you have, we can stand here together united as First Nations, Métis, industry, and we can stand on one path. And I'm so proud. And of course, Excelis, the group that kept us in line, the group that kept us updated. And of course, my last thank you to my Métis Settlements General Council communities and the 8 settlements of Alberta that put their faith in me to negotiate on behalf of our landscape and our lands in Alberta. Thank you very much. I stand here humbled and proud. It takes a dedicated, passionate team to negotiate this big of a deal. And I truly am honored to be part of this positive, generational impact that will have Indigenous people for many years to come. And beneficial ownership is the only way. And it's the new way. We are united today, and we are united moving forward. Thank you. And I humbly thank you, everyone, for having me.
I think he's over his shyness. Thank you so much, Lee. He's a great leader in his community. I just love him. Now I'd like to invite François Poirier, President and CEO of TC Energy, to say a few words.
I really appreciate the passion, Councillor. It's very inspiring, actually. Look, I want to extend our company's deepest sympathies to the residents and the community of Jasper who've been displaced and impacted by the wildfires. We closely monitor and provide support through our TC Energy Build Strong community giving program. The community remains at the forefront of our thoughts during this devastating time. Now, with community top of mind for all Canadians during wildfire season, community is at the heart of what we are discussing here today. Today's announcement represents an important step in the journey that is long overdue. Indigenous equity ownership in Canada's most important energy infrastructure. Indigenous ownership, I'll put it simply, Indigenous ownership is the path to a more prosperous nation. This partnership, with an enterprise value of $1.65 billion, creates an opportunity for many Indigenous communities across Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan to acquire an ownership interest in the NGTL and Foothills pipeline assets. It would not be possible without the world-leading Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, created by the visionary government of Alberta. Careful for the twist here. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui représente une étape déterminante dans un parcours qui n'a que trop tardé. La participation autochtone dans les capitaux propres de l'infrastructure énergétique la plus importante au Canada. Le droit de propriété autochtone est la solution pour une nation plus prospère. Ce partenariat permettra à plusieurs communautés autochtones de l'Alberta, de la Colombie-Britannique et de la Saskatchewan d'acquérir ensemble une participation dans les actifs des réseaux de gazoducs de NGTL et Foothills. Cela n'aurait pas été possible sans the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, une société de renommée mondiale mise sur pied par le gouvernement de l'Alberta. Thank you, Chana. Thank you for your leadership and being a strong advocate for Indigenous ownership and participation. I want to personally thank Premier Smith, Minister Jean and Minister and Minister Wilson for being here and for their visionary leadership and support of this partnership. Through the AIOC, the Government of Alberta has set the standard for the rest of Canada when it comes to creating multi-generational prosperity for Indigenous communities. It's been a privilege for us to be part of this historic transaction that demonstrates Indigenous people want to be part of the energy industry and its bright future. I extend my sincere gratitude to our partners and members of the Consortium Committee for your ongoing collaboration, dedication, and support to bring us to today's milestone. Thank you, Makiinima Chief Roy Fox. Thank you of the Blood Tribe, and thank you, Councillor Thom, Kikino Metis Nation, on behalf of the Consortium Committee. I'm humbled and moved by this historic moment. It's an example of what achievable when Indigenous communities, government, and industry comes together. We as a company are on a decades-long journey of building strong relationships with Indigenous communities. That requires authentic connection and a genuine openness to feedback and a commitment to improving. Many Indigenous leaders across Canada, including our Indigenous Advisory Council, have told us that ownership can have a profound impact. We've been told that the best projects are those that are built by local Indigenous employees, using Indigenous services and with Indigenous ownership. And we heard you. This partnership sets a historic precedent that will change how we come together and share in Canada's resource economy. Being co-owners of the most important energy infrastructure in the company, infrastructure that drove the birth and growth of the natural gas industry, that's already built, already generating cash, that fundamentally connects us and is critical to our economy. This is monumental. Co-ownership on these assets represents the tremendous value we know Indigenous partners bring to the table as owners. So we're excited to become partners. We will invest together to bring Canada's energy infrastructure and share the wealth that is generated. Dans l'économie des ressources du Canada, la propriété autochtone devrait être monnaie courante. C'est la meilleure façon pour les industries du pays de poursuivre leur exploitation et d'assurer leur croissance. Imaginez tous ce que nous, le Canada, notre industrie, et nous, TC Energy, aurions pu accomplir si nous avions adopté une approche comme celle-ci il y a quelques décennies. Tout ce que nous aurions pu construire ensemble, ainsi que les avantages qu'en aurait retiré la communauté autochtone. Aujourd'hui, nous traçons un nouveau chemin. Le droit de propriété autochtone est la solution pour une nation plus prospère. Indigenous ownership in Canada's resource economy should be commonplace. It is the best way for industries across the nation to continue to operate and grow. Imagine if we, Canada, our industry, our company, TC Energy, had taken this approach decades ago. Imagine how much we could have gotten done, how much we could have built together, and how many benefits would have been created for Indigenous communities. And today, we changed that path. Indigenous ownership is the path to a more prosperous nation. Thank you.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.